listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all things personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. Today, we have Hannah Osmon, the CEO of Hannah Osmon Fitness, aka HOFIT, on the podcast. Hannah, I would love for you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the podcast, as I'm sure you will do best.
Woo! Okay, I feel like I have to crack my fingers for this. Intros are always, I just get stressed. I get sweaty.
I understand.
Yeah. So Sophia, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to just chat the health and fitness side of things. And I definitely don't know a ton about self-defense and firearms, but I'm excited to learn from you as well. So I am originally from Mountain Home, Arkansas. Grew up in a very, very small town. I was an athlete my entire life and then got into collegiate athletes, turned competitive bodybuilding. And then after my competitive bodybuilding career, I kind of took off in the online coaching space. And so I've been full-time online since 2017, and it legit fills my cup to the brim. I love what I do so much. And it's a great life.
That's amazing. Yes, you are definitely changing so many lives, including mine. So Hannah is actually my coach. I'm hoping to step on stage myself next summer or even after that. I'm far from where I need to be, but something I love about HOFIT is how you all focus on metabolic health, lifestyle-based changes, and sustainable practices, which I feel like is something that we're lacking in the fitness space. It's a lot of kind of like aesthetic goals and unhealthy, quick diets. So you're truly changing the narrative around like sustainable practices. Your team is also just such a almost family, but also professional family. It's weird. It's like this perfect mixture of what you would want in a coach and a group to support you along the way. So shout out to Vicky, she's actually my coach on your team, but they're all in a way your coach, because you also have bi-weekly meetings to kind of discuss educational topics, which is something I haven't heard of any other coaching group do. So yes, you are absolutely transcending the fitness space. So I'm honored to have you on today.
I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm so glad. I'm honored to have you on to speak to these topics that don't get a lot of attention. I really like She Shield being this space for self-defense, but the first line of defense is absolutely physical, personal health. So part of the podcast's purpose is to bring up topics that aren't discussed enough. So yes, today is a big day for me. I'm really excited to get this going. It's a long time coming. And of course, I'm getting my master's in exercise science kinesiology, but you have way more experience than I have. And I'd rather the masters talk about these topics, and I'll sit over here and listen and soak it all up. I'm excited.
I appreciate that, but I do need to correct you. I only have my degree, right? I didn't go back to further education or anything like that, but I will say my extensive experience and personal experience and in and out of contest prep and just coaching has really allowed me to be where I'm at. So, and then I just have to mention, I really appreciate what you said about HOFIT, just making an impact beyond the aesthetic changes, because that was definitely my experience getting into health and fitness. The reason I kind of got into health and fitness was stemming really from like a place of self-hatred and like only really wanting to change the aesthetic. And I just completely bypassed all emotional health, psychological health, hormonal health, anything outside of the aesthetics. I was just kind of ignorant to. I just didn't really care to listen to it. So through that experience, I kind of created HOFIT and the service that we offer. And I'm really proud of what we do and how we do it. So I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you. And actually, I would like to kind of go ahead and take this time to dive into how you frame your training and what you do to frame one-on-one training for each individual that comes your way. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. So first, on discovery calls, which is kind of just like sales calls, we call it discovery calls. I really just take that time to get to know the client and make sure the expectations are where they need to be. We are so not the quick fix, let me just get this aesthetic 8-week transformation so we can post it on Instagram. We are so far from that service. So the majority of that call is getting to know them, getting to know their goals, what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. But it's also setting the expectation of like our philosophies and methodologies behind what we do. We really focus on nutrition, training, and accountability are like pillars. But within accountability, there has to be a ton of education, and there has to be a lot of mindset work, and there has to be a lot of integration work. Because if you're not enjoying what you're doing and you don't feel like it's sustainable long term, then there's really no point in doing it. So we just, make sure we get on the same page, and then we meet the client where they're at. We fully customize them a program based on, what we kind of come up with on that call in their extensive intake form. And then we just fully customize the program and go to week check-ins and accountability from there.
Absolutely. And you have an Instagram page based only like for your HOFIT clients, and also amazing educational content that you really don't get anywhere else. Like that page is truly like, I'm definitely going to tag it everywhere I can. I even tell my personal clients to go there and learn. So yes, I absolutely love what you're doing. I kind of forgot what I was going to say next. I might have to 3, 2, 1.
That's okay. No, the Instagram page has definitely evolved over the years. My team helps me out with that. They do an incredible job because I've kind of removed myself from the service side of HOFIT. I think I have a roster of maybe 7 clients, and they've been with me for 2, 3, 4 years. So it's just a little different, like with me being removed from the coaching side of things, but they do a great job with their clients. So it makes getting those like testimonials and those side-by-sides very easy because they do such a good job with their clients.
They absolutely do. I remember our discovery call, which, by the way, I love that name so much. I never even thought of it as a sales call. I just thought of it as like a conversation of, I don't know. That's a great name. Moving on. But you told me that you were very transparent with me when we started. You told me that your roster was kind of full, but you wanted to place me with your coaches who you trusted. And of course, I was excited to work with you. But of course, by that point, I trusted you. Still trust you. I say trusted. It sounds like it's gone, but it's there. I trusted you to where I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like anyone she thinks is appropriate is going to be amazing. And that's exactly what happened. Vicky is the coach you placed me with. And over the first 6 months I worked with you all, she helped me heal my relationship with food. I actually didn't realize I was in a habit of binging. I never thought that would be me. It's something that a lot of conversations started being built around like binging and purging episodes and like unhealthy eating habits on, I feel like, TikTok. At least I was on that side of TikTok, probably for a reason. Mm-hmm. And then one day I saw a post by Vicky talking about her personal experiences with that. And I was identifying with so many things she said. And I realized like it's because I have personally been through binging episodes. And we started working together. She started having me bring to awareness what factors made me want to binge, those pre-cues, those cues during, and my feelings afterwards. And after essentially 6 months, like I haven't had a binging episode in a while. And it's been, it's been such a change in mentality and like overall just growth. It's incredible. So it's not always like what you think it's going to be sometimes. Incredible. Thank you. I appreciate it. I definitely was going in like I'm ready to like lean down. I never thought it would be this like journey of healing my relationship with food more
of
like
course.
So. Absolutely. And
I think most people get started with their health and fitness journey that's okay. I think most people get started with their health and fitness journey because they want to change their aesthetic. But then when they get into it, like they realize their self-sabotaging behaviors, their perfectionism, their like procrastination, it's stemming from a much deeper rooted place. And it has nothing to do with like your motivation to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Like accountability and coaching is so much more than just hitting data points and like slapping someone on the wrist. If you are not able to like dive into behavioral change and mindset, transitioning someone's mindset around food and training and the integration of that, like we're really doing clients a disservice. So it just goes back to like that gap that I noticed. And I personally don't have that like behavioral change, like psychology background, but I've put the coaches in my business now that can coach that. And they do a phenomenal job of doing that. So I love that you shared that with me. That just makes me so, so happy to hear.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I would love to know if you're willing to share what kind of cued you to get more involved in your metabolic and mental health as part of your journey. I wanted to know, like, what was it that made you realize, or like at what point in your lifting journey did you realize you needed to start focusing on your metabolic health and also other aspects like mental health?
Yeah. So, being an athlete my entire life, I had always kind of valued myself and my accomplishments or my achievements. So like being an athlete, it was always the next state championship or like the next, game win or like the next MVP. And like college was very similar to that. So whenever I got into competing, it really just exacerbated all of that for me. I was already fairly body conscious and I was already fairly like go mentality. And so for me, and it's hard to talk shit on competing, right? Because like it has given me so much in my life and it's taught me so many valuable lessons. It's given me my platform. It's helped me start my business. It's so hard to talk ill on it. But I just, the coaching maybe I received didn't give me the proper like context and like broad picture of this is a season of your life. It's not your entire life. So I just went in and I went ham. I think I did 12 shows in 4 years. And I was either always in a season of restriction and too much cardio and like massive control in my life, or I resented everything to do with health and fitness. Like when I wasn't in competing and I wasn't on a strict meal plan, I was saying fuck it and like not tracking or conscious of anything. So that, polarizing season, like year after year after year, eventually it took a toll on my metabolic health. It took a toll on my hormonal health, my gut health, my psyche. I mean, I couldn't be in my normal people season without, calling myself a fat ass and like just in a really, really dark mental spot. And I mean, it's funny because like on social media, I was getting so much external validation of, you look good, everything's great. But like behind the scenes, I was really, really, really struggling. And I was starting this business. So I was like wanting to have this authoritative, like credible, type presentation online, but like internally and hormonally, I was really struggling. And then I kind of devalued myself because I didn't have abs and I wasn't in this like super shredded season of my life. So I questioned if I was even capable of coaching people. If I couldn't, keep myself lean, surely I'm not a great coach. And so eventually it all came to a head. And I feel like my body kind of forced me to focus on different avenues of my health bubble outside of just aesthetics. So started going to therapy, started doing breath work and meditation. And it's just different things. I really needed to focus on other avenues of my health and fitness outside of just physical. So that was kind of the turning point for me. And that was probably 2017, 2018, I would say.
Wow. Yeah. So you said 12 shows. Sorry to go back to this, but I was too stunned.
No, that's okay.
Was too stunned to speak. 12 shows in 4 years, you said?
I think so. It was maybe 11 shows in 4 years, 12 shows in 4 years, something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that definitely, that's something I'm sure is just, as far as the physical toll it takes on you and then everything else going on, that's just, wow. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. I feel like it's not, that part of bodybuilding is not discussed enough. I think we were talking about this a bit before the episode started, how transparent you are with like the 360 view of bodybuilding and health and wellness. It's just so genuine, and we're lucky to have someone like you in the fitness space to balance out everything. And yeah, absolutely. And I definitely look up to you for all of that. And I've taken notes for my personal social media and how vulnerable I've wanted to be. I've definitely been scared to do that in a space where there can be a lot of judgment. So yeah, thank you for that. Seriously. It's
of
wonderful.
Course. Yeah.
And I'm so glad
I think Instagram is a little tough. No, yes. That's okay. I think Instagram is a little tough sometimes because, on a podcast or on a YouTube, it's long form copy. So like you can provide as much context and like circle around what you're trying to say as many times as you want. But with Instagram, especially like the static like the static post or even the reels. Like you're getting 30 to 60 seconds to provide someone like so much context and education. And like, you want to preface these messages and say like, oh, well, but like, it depends. And like, you don't get the opportunity to really dive deep with someone and like get your point across on Instagram. So the judgment just feels very like dense over there.
Yes. That's a really good point. I haven't thought of it that way. I actually started to enjoy TikTok a lot more because I wasn't having to think about like, I blew up so quickly on TikTok that I was like, okay, they love me even when like I barely focused on like video editing and like was just myself. So I started just falling in love with that feeling of just being myself, not really focusing on editing everything to a T, like kind of how Instagram wants you to present things. And then of course I'm silently banned right now because of gun content. I'm on like I forget what they call it, but my page has been flagged essentially. So anything I post now is like, it could be that thing to just like pull my account over the edge. But Instagram is definitely, that's a great way to put it. Sorry. That's great. And it's only like a minute and a half, I think, is the length of reels at the moment. You can post videos as reels, but you have to squeeze all of this information into one video. And then you get comments that sometimes like take what you're saying past like the point of what you were trying to say. And it's definitely a challenge. Yes. But I love your page. For those of you listening, I'll definitely tag her social media in the show notes, which are the notes below the title. So if you all want to go learn and laugh, please head over there and give her a follow, guys. Are you ready to kind of dive into some questions I have here?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Sounds good. So this is an incredibly open question. I would love for you to just run with it wherever you want to go. I think I said that to you before, but as far as what you would consider good health and wellness, so for someone who's trying to achieve just a healthy lifestyle and have overall good health and wellness, what would you say that is?
Oh man, this is such a loaded question too, because I feel like my answer has changed so many times. Like it's so hard. I really think whenever I got into health and fitness, like I said, I was just focusing on the physical, like the aesthetic side of things. But health and fitness to me means now that like you have, some sort of like balance and you feel very in alignment with not only like the body, the physical, but it's the mind, the heart, the spirit. Like you have a good social balance. You're good with your money. Like you have an awareness around your career. You're driven. You have a purpose. Like it's all encompassing of your vessel that you kind of reside in and everything that you do. Like there's got to be some sort of balance to it. Obviously my bread and butter is the physical side of things, but I totally see HOFIT and I see myself diving more into like the mindset, personal development, and like spiritual side of things down the road, because I do think that is incredibly important. And I think I have some good value to add in that sense.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that answer. It was a loaded question, but you answered it like it was nothing. So that's amazing. So something I've learned from your coaching is ultimate accountability in all facets of life. So it didn't just hit me in like showing up to the gym. It hit me in like tracking my macros, like if you even sneak in like one little thing, you end up feeling like more comfortable to do it again. And again, it just starts compounding. So just like taking ultimate responsibility and ownership of what you do in every facet of life. I'm talking like it's affected me to the point where like I bought a pair of Nike joggers the other day and I was talking to my fiance and I was like, okay, look, I got this pair, but I got this discount and it's okay because I'm going to wear it because winter is coming up and my booty's growing. And so I need bigger sweatpants. And I was talking about it and even financially, your program has just affected me in the best way. It's helped me adult. I know it sounds weird, but being a 24-year-old has been extremely scary because my fiance and I are talking about buying a house next July. And I'm having to think about like everything I do, like anything I buy will affect our ability to do that. And it's taking extreme ownership is something I've already practiced with your coaching. So I'm able to apply that. And it's been a big help. But yes, that's a really great way to like bring up holistic health.
I'm getting a little bit emotional here because like that is what I want to represent. Like through and through. That is what like my kind of like mission statement is like I empower personal growth and transformation in people. And like that is just so true. And like my core values of extreme ownership and like integrity and like radical transparency, it applies so much deeper than just health and fitness. Like we can learn these skills and we can like develop these core values and like what these characteristics, so to speak, like through health and fitness. But we often have conversations around setting core values, setting boundaries, having hard conversations with loved ones. And those skills are able to translate into all areas of your life. And so that is just so cool that you would say that. That is like my mission.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable and being willing to speak to it from your heart. It's also affected my relationship in a very positive way. And I know it's his name is Sarge, correct? Like, is it Sarge?
Alex Sargent, but yeah, nickname is Sarge. Yeah.
Gotcha. Nickname. Okay. Yes. Very cool. So yeah, I love the little relationship segments you put out. It's, I definitely have read those. I showed my fiance this morning when I was showing him your page. I know it sounds creepy, but I had to stalk you to write the questions. So I had some posts I marked and wanted to show him because I thought they were really sweet. But you all talk about that in some of your like relationship posts as well, and that's incredible. Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to speak to that.
We've both been through. Well, I definitely can. I mean, I think everyone's been through some stuff, and he's been married and I've been engaged before. Neither of them worked out, so like we know what we want to be in relationships, and we know how we want to show up in relationships, but like our prior experiences haven't really been that way. So like we've just again been radically transparent through everything, and like we've communicated through it all. And I think that's all you can do. So, I mean, I'm 28 and like, I'm definitely not done learning, but life has just taught me so much, and it's beautiful. And like, I really feel like I'm put on this earth to share and be vulnerable and like, just connect with people and hold space with people and hopefully prevent them from making the same mistakes and just, leveling up with me. That's what life is about, I feel.
Absolutely. Yes, it absolutely is. Radical transparency, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that should be like, I don't think I've ever heard those two words put together, but I freaking love that. That's amazing. I'm about to like pull my fiance aside after this and be like, hey, so I learned this new term. It's going to come up a lot in our future discussions. I love it. I love that.
I love it.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Seriously. I've had some couples come on and talk about actually, I haven't had a couple come on to talk about this, but I have had an episode. A friend is actually married. I'm trying to say this in the right timeline, but she trained alongside one of her instructors, and they ended up over time creating a relationship. And I asked her a little bit about how they balance like him being essentially her instructor, but like also her husband now. And I just think like any type of sharing, I feel like it's going to at least hit someone, at the right time and be able to help someone along the way. So it's always worth going into detail about. So thank you for sharing that.
Definitely.
I would love to kind of talk about. Wonderful. I would love to talk about your experience working with men compared to women, since She Shield was kind of developed on it's weird because it started, of course, with Grace and I, two women speaking to experiences as women in the self-defense space. But it's not, of course, restricted to only women. I want men to feel welcome, and that's why I say it in the intro. But I'd love to know specifically like how training women versus men has kind of been for you. Have there been any like marked differences that maybe you'd want to share? I know that's a really open question, but I just want to see where you go with it. So.
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah. So I don't know. There's definitely a few differences. Like both let me start with like the societal pressures, because I feel like that's a good segue into it. Like, women have many, many societal pressures on them to be the smallest version of themselves constantly. And I think it's definitely gotten better over the last few years, just with some of social media. Like, I actually think there's been some positives out of social media and like body image and having this balanced, healthy lifestyle and, prioritizing self-care and all of that. But when I was growing up, I was born in 93. My mom's experience was that thicker was bad. Thicker was ugly. I mean, they were very, very transparent on magazines back in the day, where it was like, she stopped taking care of herself. She's fat. She's ugly. Like, that was all over back when we were growing up. So I think, for one, it's like the societal pressures for women to be the smallest version of themselves and not take up too much room. And we don't want to be too manly, and we don't want to have too much muscle, and we don't want to be too masculine, and like all of these things. So I think that definitely puts one pressure on women that differs a little bit from men. But I would definitely say that there are like pros and cons of both. Women have cycles, and with societal pressures of being smaller, if we're under eating and we always want to be the smallest version of ourselves, if we're always dieting, there comes some like metabolic stressors with that. There comes some like hormonal and like cycle stressors on that, PCOS, and any little thing can kind of pop up stemming from metabolic stress, which is stemming from what? Ancestral or just generational pressure or societal pressure as a whole. So we could definitely go down a loophole with that. But for men, I mean, they still have hormonal issues that they can run into. They still have societal pressures. I would say women deal a little bit more with like the mindset component and the body consciousness component. But you'd be surprised whenever I get on discovery calls with men, they may not package and present it the right way, but they still have the same drivers and insecurities, and they still have the same metabolic issues, and they're still, protein deficient, and they're still balanced meal deficient, and they still don't have the proper routines in place. So like, there are some differences, but I would just say they're presented and packaged differently, and they're probably perceived a little bit differently, like between men and women as well.
Yes. Absolutely. No, I love that. That makes a lot of sense just from the conversations I've had with men in this space. I think being a photographer for my gym has been a really like great opportunity to just meet people and get into conversations about how they got started in fitness. And I absolutely, some of the things you said resonated with me because of these conversations I've had. And the way they chose to kind of bring up their journey is very different, I feel like, from what women say. And of course, that's a man speaking to a woman, so that might, be why, and in my case. But that's really interesting. I do feel like just because I am a female, like I tend to just like gravitate towards like more stories of like women's growth and mindset. But it's always nice to hear like how men feel about, their transitions and their needs comparatively. One of the things you said when you said you could go on a tangent about like hormonal health, if that's something you would like to do today, I think that's incredible. Just recently speaking with my clients, it's something that is not discussed enough. And I honestly don't feel totally comfortable speaking myself about it, because recently, personally, I've been struggling with hormonal balance myself. I got my progesterone-based IUD out a few weeks ago, and I've been slowly trying to get off of like any hormonal birth control. And I've been very nervous about, I felt very nervous about how that's going to affect my journey as a client with you all. And like, is it going to make me like gain weight or lose weight? And I've had many, like, not gonna lie, I've had many panic attacks just thinking about like, I'm finally getting to at least 95% adherence with the training program, where I was like used to, I was hanging out around like 50, 60, and I was like, okay with that. And then of course, like now I don't know what my body's going to do. So if you'd like to speak a little bit more to the metabolic side of things, I would love that.
Yeah. I definitely can't dive super deep into it like Vicky and Maddie and Olivia can, my other coaches, but just through, kind of bro science and my experience, most lifestyle clients who have some hormonal things going on, they're not nailing the basics. You know what I mean? And like, regardless of if we were to get a hormone panel run or a GI test or anything like that, the first thing we're going to consider is lifestyle factors, right? So like, if you're not in a solid practice of proper nourishment and making sure you're not in a deficit, you're eating enough, right? Like, because that's a stressor in itself. If our hormones are already stressed and we're intentionally or unintentionally under eating, that is a stressor. And so your hormones are kind of in battle with your metabolism. Like what's it going to prioritize today? So when your metabolism is downregulated, your hormones and adrenals downregulate with that. And so taking that stressor off the plate and just making sure you're in a metabolically sound spot, making sure you're eating enough, you're not protein deficient, you have, balanced meals throughout the day, and you have some sort of like activity honoring practice that you're consistent with, that would be the first change anyways. So if you have any specific questions about your clients, I'm happy to dive in there. But I really just think metabolic health is kind of like the foundational stuff. Like we have to be sound there first before we really do anything else. And to kind of touch on birth control, it is a possibility when you get off of birth control that you're going to gain weight, just because it is a synthetic hormone, right? Like when your body has synthetic hormones, it essentially stops learning how to produce its own because it doesn't need to. And so when you get it back out, there is going to be a transitional period of like, oh shit, like I've got to do this myself now again. So it right. may just take a few months, and you just have to give yourself some grace there. But if you're, hitting your nutrition and you're supporting your metabolism that way, and you're managing your stress, and, you're still checking in with Vicky and still working out 3 to 4 times a week, you're going to be fine.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yes. She's been incredibly supportive about this. And this is the first time I've talked about it anywhere. But I definitely I want to be able to be a voice to that. It definitely has affected my mental health, even when I haven't been able to sense any true changes. Even when that process was happening, just that anticipatory anxiety was just incredibly loud leading up to those days, because I have so many goals and I'm of course anxious to perform well. And sometimes the things you can't control are hard to accept, and then you have to kind of rely on what you can. So yes, Vicky's been really good to kind of help me focus on what I can control in that space. And of course, she helped me start on a vitamin regimen to help my body produce those hormones again. So that was something exciting. I honestly didn't know about that even after many years of pre-med and going to med school for a semester. I didn't know that. So that was really amazing to learn. Your team is just awesome.
Yeah. Even I think there's definitely a gap there between Western medicine and obviously holistic health. There's definitely a gap there, but I feel like physique development coaches, we do kind of live in this gray area. I'm totally not against birth control or prescription medicine or anything like that, but I am against it if you're not asking about the lifestyle factors in place, like someone's metabolic health, what their day-to-day stressors look like. I am against it if those foundational things are not being met first, because at that point it's a Band-Aid.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Even if we didn't go on for 30 minutes about it, the fact that we're bringing the conversation to the forefront, that was honestly my goal with it. So seriously, thank you so much. And if you think of anything else, feel free to just throw it in there. I would love to get your opinion. So if someone were to come to you and say, I just want to improve my health and wellness, but I don't know where to get started, what do you normally respond with?
Yeah. So it's really, I really just dive a little bit more on what they're doing. So if you don't really have any knowledge of your nutrition, where your intake is at, you could either keep up a food log or you could just track in MyFitnessPal. I will tell you, tracking for some people is it's a lot of work, but any new skill is going to take a little bit to get used to, right? And you just have to play around with it a little bit. So I would say awareness has to be there first before you can change or manage anything. So if you don't know what you're eating, that would be the first step. So either keeping a food log that you're tracking after the fact, if it's, too much, doing it meal to meal, or just tracking in MyFitnessPal for a week, kind of get like a daily average and then see where you're kind of lacking. If you're deficient on protein, or you see like, wow, I'm eating over 100 grams of sugar every day, you can probably make some adjustments without necessarily needing to hire a coach first. You know what I mean? And then after that, it would really just, take a quick audit and bring some awareness to your movement, and then make some adjustments from there.
Absolutely. Yes, something I love about training with you all is you're really big on establishing baseline before giving goals to make sure the goal is not just this unachievable, like shooting for the stars goal, where like after 2 weeks of not being able to reach that because it's too crazy of a goal, we get, burned out and whatnot. You have a very good way of like progressing your clients in a realistic timeline. It's very evident you're focused on client progression and not, like Instagram transformation photos. Although you do have really impressive Instagram transformation photos. It's awesome.
We do.
Yes, you do. I often go there to like, if I'm not feeling on those days where I forget you have to rely on discipline and not motivation, I go to that page for sure and look at that. It's just incredible. It always reminds me to trust the process. So kind of switching gears here, I've had the honor of having guest speakers on from various self-defense backgrounds, including but not limited to knife fighting, Greco-Roman wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and all of them have discussed the importance of physical health as the first necessity for one's ability to protect him or herself. So over time, I developed this desire to bring light to this topic. I don't feel like it's discussed enough. Is this something that you're familiar with or would like to speak to?
It's not something I'm really familiar with, but I mean, it makes sense, right? Like I even think of our first line of defense, like our police officers and firefighters, like they get very little education on health and fitness and like nutrition and all of that. And I think it's incredibly important. So I'm all ears here.
Something I wanted to kind of ask you is, how would you recommend people go about balancing their maybe like self-defense training and like weightlifting training? So if they're wanting to focus on the holistic part of health, the cardiovascular side, but also improve in kind of like a self-defense art like jiu-jitsu, or I know you mentioned before that you did wrestling in high school. Is this something you mentioned on the podcast, or did we talk about this way before? I can't remember.
I think we've chatted about it when you were an old client maybe, but yes, I did wrestle back in the day. It's been a while.
Is it okay? Is it okay that if we talk about it a little bit? Okay, wonderful. Because I'm sure that's not the only thing you were doing at the time. So do you have any personal experience with having to kind of balance that, or have you had any clients come along that have needed to balance their like self-defense training and weightlifting training?
I've definitely had clients interested in jiu-jitsu or like kickboxing, or they just, enjoy classes, and we have to mix a little bit of like weight training and various, other forms of physical activity. But I would always come back to just expectation. If you're planning on stepping on stage and you want to be a very competitive bikini competitor or figure competitor, whatever type of competitor, you've got to recognize that like it's going to take 5 days of training per week. And it's probably at some point going to take double cardio sessions every day. And that's just the expectation of contest prep. Can you balance it if, you just want to step on stage, or like you want to try it out? Absolutely. But I'm so transparent and realistic with my clients. There is going to come a point where we are just required to spend a little bit more time in the gym. So if you are wanting to compete just for fun, I would easily say that you could work in like 2 days of lifting, 2 days of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then 2 days of, some other training if you would like, as long as the expected rate of change and then the body expectation is in correlation with that. I always use this example on discovery calls of like, you can enjoy cross-country running, you can enjoy long-distance running, but if you want to look like a power lifter, it's not going to come from cross-country training. those have two very, very different looks. So it just, part of it does come down to like what the client is actually wanting to look like. If that is part of the goal, sometimes it is more of a performance or lifestyle goal. And it's, as long as the expectation is there, that's what I'm trying to get at. Long-winded answer there.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that. Seriously. This is definitely your time to just go on a rant, go on a tangent, please. I always tell my guest speakers, I feel like at one point in the episode, no matter who it is, they'll always say like, sorry, that was tangential. And I'm like, no, do it. This is your time to shine. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, I had that conversation with Vicky. I was doing CrossFit like at least twice a week. That was my goal. But by the time I would finish CrossFit, my joints would hurt. And this was a personal issue, not doing enough mobility before and after. But I would notice that it would affect my like personal lifts in the gym. So we had a heart to heart. She's like, maybe you should consider at least doing one day a week, or maybe like start maybe phasing that out. And of course she gave me that like flexibility to choose for myself. And I ended up, of course, choosing to stop CrossFit, at least for now. Of course, like I think in the future, taking a class a month or something just to have fun, of course, is, something I can do. But yeah, we absolutely had that conversation, and I felt better just being able to focus on one thing at a time. I've had a lot of people reach out to me in the past asking about how to balance cross training. And I honestly haven't known what to tell them other than just don't overdo it and just like manage what I think I've said personal expectations, but I also don't want to say that I've said that just because I know I'm hearing it right now. So I'm starting to kind of feel like I said that, but like finding like a good split for like training in the gym and then like working in on maybe like off days, like jiu-jitsu, but then again, having like one day where you just do like a walking day where you're not like being super hard on your joints. Is that anything you'd like to speak to further on like?
It's a hard balance because you want to like take into consideration like what the athlete enjoys, but it really just comes down to like, listen, bikini pros, if this is what you're wanting to do, or if you want to be competitive on a national stage, like it's just the reality of it. Like they're in the gym 5 days a week. They're doing cardio 6 days a week in contest prep. It is a season of their life. So like you may need to take 6 months and drop jujitsu or self-defense on the totem pole a little bit. And like, that sucks, but it really just depends on like what the goal of the season is,
Absolutely. Yes. I've been thinking about this personally lately. I've been shooting USPSA competitions. Of course, I say I've been shooting. I've been to one so far. And I went to my first movement class this past Saturday, and I was absolutely gassed the rest of the weekend. There's so much agility and just being in essentially like a squat for 6 hours. Like I felt like I squatted all day long. Like even when we were like breaking for lunch, we didn't really have a lunch break because he was afraid we get too comfortable and eat too much and then get sick because he's had that happen to people. So for the first time in my life, I did agility work, which was really just, I was in a group of
challenging
7 other guys. Oh my gosh. And they're all law enforcement officers, all in really good shape. Some of them were SWAT, so they had to be in really good shape. So I'm over here like representing women in this one class. And so I considered taking pre-workout, but I knew it would make me like need to pee every hour. So I was like, I can't do that because there's not a bathroom out here. So anyway, all that to say, I did talk to Vicky a little bit about how to balance like agility drills and bodybuilding. So we've talked about adding in like a few like drills, I think on upper body days where it's not as like taxing for lower body. But that part of my life when I used to struggle with balancing jiu-jitsu and training came back up. So I just wanted to kind of address that today. Is that something you...
No, it's a great question. It's a great question. And that's probably how I would incorporate it. It would be like after strength training days, like if you could balance 3 to 4 strength training sessions. And then towards the end of your session, so like you start with compound lifts, 2 to 3 compound lifts, you then work into more like functional training and agility plyometric work. That's definitely one way to skin the cat. But again, it's just like expectation management of like, are you going to be putting on hypertrophy focused, bikini focused muscle? Maybe not.
Right. Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I have 2 questions coming to my head right now. I guess I'd like to start with, since we've just I feel like we've shifted a little bit to the just talk of the bikini timeline. Could you speak to that, like what the actual timeline is? I know it depends a lot on like where the individual is in their journey, but is that something you'd like to speak to?
Yeah, totally depends on like where the athlete is at in their off season. So I usually like to tell clients, if I'm not working with you prior to a prep, we typically don't just jump straight into contest prep unless it's like agreed upon and you've already signed up for the show and like you've already paid the money and we're kind of on, crunch time. But even then I'm giving very realistic expectations on how prep is going to go. But I typically like to do what I call like a prep before the prep. So this would include a reverse diet or a cutting phase into a reverse diet into maintenance to make sure someone is like metabolically sound enough to support a prep. So just to give you some like example numbers on this, if a client comes to us and maybe she's eating 1,800 calories and she wants to do a contest prep, there's not a ton of wiggle room in that caloric intake to really support anywhere from like a 16 to a 24-week prep sometimes. I prefer to have prep a little bit longer just so I can take it a little bit slower and keep them metabolically as healthy as I can. We also implement refeeds and diet breaks, consecutive day refeeds, which allows for the metabolism not to downregulate as quickly. And so we are strategic, like when we're dieting for shows, but there are going to be some hormonal downregulations that happen in contest prep. That's just something that kind of comes with it. So as far as, just making sure a client is in a good enough spot, if they come to us at that 1,700 calorie mark, our first goal might be, hey, we need to reverse diet and get you back up at like a pushed maintenance. You could be maintaining at the 1,700 calories, but the reality is like, it's not going to support a prep. So we need to push your maintenance, put on a little bit more muscle, get you closer to, 21 to 2,400 calories would be ideal. And that way you can actually support a cut metabolically and calorically speaking, but also hopefully your hormones and composition is in a healthy spot closer to that like 2,000 calorie range versus, 1,500, somewhere around there. Does that answer your question, hopefully?
Yes, it absolutely does. That was something that I had to come to terms with when I started working with you all again, because I was eating like so randomly, like some days like closer to 2,000 calories, some days I'd have like a meal, and you all, I can definitely tell you all are focused on the long-term change just because you didn't allow that. You were like, no, that's actually
right.
Probably that's not what we recommend doing. This is what we recommend. I'd never heard of a reverse diet. It's helped me just so much in my personal clients. And honestly, sometimes I feel weird having clients at all. Then again, I look at what other like personal trainers at the gyms I've been to do, and I sometimes I'm like, I'd rather them be with me than those individuals. So it's been a lot of like imposter syndrome, but also like I'm very clear about what I am uncomfortable like briefing them about. I'm very clear with like them needing to, seek medical advice from, their physician and stuff. So I'm trying to find that balance, but I've learned a lot just from being coached by you guys.
Yeah, I think that's what it's about. As long as you're like transparent and as long as you're honest with like where you're at and like when you need to outsource help, I think you're fine. And it's cool that you have the people in your corner. I'm always, again, radical transparency. Like I have no problem telling my clients like, listen, I didn't, I don't have my nurse practitioner degree. I don't know how to read blood work. I know from like a very bro science and like in the weed work with clients, I've seen these things like happen over and over again. So I can definitely make some educated guesses. And now that I have a team, and of course, like I'm still investing in coaching and mentorship. So I'm always learning. But I honestly think if you're not feeling some imposter syndrome, you're probably not expanding your container enough,
That makes a lot of sense. Yes. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And sometimes it's nice to say, I'm a master's student in exercise science, but the things I've learned through just personal training and being a client have helped me more than my degree has helped me. And I
100%.
hate to say that. Yes, absolutely. Experience over like academia. Sometimes Yes. I mean, that's why I have a coach. Like I've admitted where my lines are, my boundaries are with my knowledge. And yeah, it's been an interesting ride for sure. But some of the classes are extremely helpful. Right now, my motor learning class, it talks a lot about kind of like the mental management part of developing a skill and like improving on something. And that's something I wasn't expecting to learn from my degree. So that's been really nice. Then again, there are, of course, a lot of books out there. There's one I've read with Winning in Mind, like that goes into the mental management part of like training, competing, and just trying to be better at things. So yeah, it's definitely not the only thing. Experience always, I feel like, comes out on top, but yeah, it's a balance for sure. I just went on a little rant there.
I mean, it's no, that's okay. It's not that, you don't value your book education. It's just, you just learn so much from spending time with clients and like really being in the trenches with them.
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. I tell my clients, because I only have a few right now, I just tell them to text me if they're out and they need some like reminder of like what the expectations are with like tracking while they're out and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm really proud. I had a client text me this past weekend. She's had some issues with like binge drinking, and she texted me and she's like, "You'll be really proud of me. I ordered a Diet Coke instead," which is progression, of course. Like I wasn't focused on her getting a water. I was focused on her just not going to 7, beers. And that was really amazing to see, like having that impact when I'm someone who's like also trying to improve in like the same areas with tracking and accountability. So yes, no, it's very cool. Awesome. Thank you. So you're not just limited, your team is not just limited to people wanting to come in for bodybuilding, correct? You have clients that are just wanting to improve their overall wellness?
Yeah. The majority of our clients are now lifestyle is what I kind of categorize them as. It's just, I think that's where my kind of value lies. And I have competitors and I have no problem pushing competitors, but I have such a different perspective on, and I'm able to share that perspective on competing than what I had going through competition. So it's very different, but the majority of our clients are lifestyle.
Okay, right. And as far as kind of how you approach their goals compared to someone who's competing, would you like to go into that, or do you feel like you've already kind of touched on that?
I feel like I've touched on it quite a bit. It's really just like meeting the client where they're at. I mean, most people come in with that physical goal, and it really becomes so much more, and it becomes that like well-rounded bucket of wellness that I kind of discussed. And that's really where like the impact and change comes from for me. Like getting someone abs is one thing, but changing someone's life and having their outlook on health and fitness change, and not passing down body dysmorphia to like their kids, like there's nothing more rewarding than that.
That's incredible. Yes, body dysmorphia is a big one. And making generational based changes is huge. That's absolutely happened within my family. So that definitely strikes a nerve. Yes. If you'd like to speak to the mental health side of things with body dysmorphia or anything like that now, is that something you'd like to expand on?
I definitely can. It's hard fucking work. It's a lot of awareness, and it's a lot of like sitting with yourself and like figuring out like, what evidence do I have to support this thought? And sometimes you do have a lot of evidence to support that thought. And like, you can pinpoint it on like where that thought or where that, self-destructive mindset loop is kind of coming from, but you can't like sit there. You have to bring the awareness there and then like take action to get out of your own shit. And it's been hard. Like it's never going to be done. I feel like I'm always going to be growing in that area. But awareness and, coming face to face with your own data sometimes and your own numbers, that's the first step to making that change, I believe.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Thank you for sharing. That's something I talk a lot about with my clients. Body dysmorphia, I feel like, is one of the first things they bring up to me when they like when we sit down for our primary consultation. So, and I'm personally dealing with that. So I just tell them what's helped me, and it's usually what I've learned from you all. So it's nice to kind of pass that along. That's wonderful.
I also think just redefining like your why, like what's the big picture why here? I think that helps people. Obviously, like surface level goals you're probably going to hear things like, oh, I want to lose fat. And then if you dive a little bit deeper, it's like, well, why do you want to lose fat? Well, I want to lead a better example with nutrition and health for my kids. Like I want to be able to get on the floor with them and pick them up and, be able to roll around with them and not be in physical pain. That's like a deeper rooted why. And then you can continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, why is that an issue for you? Why is that important to you? Why is this thing the top of your priority list? Like when you can really have someone define their deep rooted why, it typically becomes like much bigger picture than like, oh, I just want to lose fat and feel confident. You know what I mean?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. I feel like lately I've had to really reorient myself with my why. I get kind of caught in the day to day. And then some days I'm like, damn it. Like, I just want to drop everything and just not care for a day. So going back to that original, kind of desire, like why I reached out to you all in the first place is huge. I actually, I definitely I feel bad. I've taken a lot of, the kind of the organization, like how you organize with your clients. I've used that with my in-person clients. I only have in-person clients. They're usually referred to me by my gym, and that's kind of how it works out. They're definitely looking for people to kind of like walk them through each training day. And what I have them do before is fill out a form like yours. And I always keep their questions in a document and I share it with them. And then anytime they struggle with like their why, I resend that document. And I'm like, hey, I really want you to review what you originally said to me. And I ask them to be as detailed as possible. It's nice. I actually, because you can send like a recording or like a copy of responses of sometimes our check-in forms, I'll do that, or I'll screenshot something I've said, and then I'll keep it in like a little album and I'll go through and remind myself like what my goal is. But yeah, I absolutely love the way you all do check-ins. It's incredibly holistic, from like sleep to like how your digestion has been. There are some weeks where like that's not anything I've ever considered, and like I've been having issues, but I didn't realize it was stemmed from some of those issues. So I'll like bring up like my digestion issues, and then like once we figure out a solution, I realized like, oh, that's been causing me like mental fog and like sleep issues even.
Isn't
and like
it crazy how everything is connected? It's so cool.
Yes, it absolutely is.
But having a coach to like kind of zoom out and analyze that for you, like that's, why we're here. Because when you're so day to day, it's hard to like really get a grasp on what's going on, especially like when all the data might be perfect, like when you might be hitting your numbers, but you might have had a super stressful work week. You and the hubs might be fighting, and you might bring some of that home. And now all of a sudden we have like this big picture, and we're like, okay, now we know why the weight's up 2 pounds. Like everything's fine. No need to change anything.
Right. Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Would you like to speak to some of your goals going forward with just your personal training and your business?
Yeah. So like health and fitness or?
Sure. All of it. Just like HOFIT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my personal health and fitness goals right now, I have actually, just transparently speaking, I've been going through a lot of personal stress, and I've just been feeling this pull to like transition the business a little bit, which is hard because, the business is very successful right now and I feel very aligned with our current offer, but I feel this tug for more. And so I'm wanting to pivot a little bit, but it's scary because into new things comes all new imposter syndrome, comes all new like learning skills and developing a new offer. And it's just change, right? Like it's expansion. It's uncomfortable. But within that stress, I have, transparently and embarrassingly kind of been neglecting in a way. I have started unintentionally fasting until noon again. And then doing so like and coasting on caffeine in the morning. I'm not getting my first meal in until noon, which puts my calories behind in the day. So I'm eating maybe one more meal pre-workout. And then I'm not necessarily binging, but I'm over consuming because I'm not strategic about the front half of my day. So instead of feeling uncomfortable and hitting my macros, I have slowly but surely started to just undereat. And that was my problem whenever I first got back into health and fitness was I was the undereater. I didn't break 100 pounds until my senior year of high school. And when I got into health and fitness, it was like I'm building my security around me. Like I'm building out of my insecurities type thing. But it came with undereating. So I think, when I'm not conscious about tracking my macros, and I've been intuitive eating for 3 years, and I feel so great doing that. I feel very in control doing that. And because I tracked for so long, I had the baseline knowledge of how to transition into intuitive eating. But when I'm not intentional and I don't see those numbers, and I haven't been checking in with my own coach, it is very easy to slip, even as a professional, even as one teaching this stuff. And I know this stuff like the back of my hand. Right. It's easy when you don't have an accountability partner and when you don't have a goal, it's easy to slip. And so I think my goal with my health and fitness, bucket right now is really to just take care of myself a little bit better, to make sure I'm eating 4 to 5 solid meals a day and I'm practicing what I preach. But I'm also doing it in a way that doesn't feel like it's not honoring the balance that I've created. And I'm not getting back into disordered eating, or I'm not getting back into like beating myself up for having a couple drinks over a weekend and that kind of thing. So I just feel like I have a different perspective on that now. Yeah. And then with business, it's just to keep diving in and to just listening to my intuition and further aligning my business with where I'd like to be, regardless of how scary it is. And then my goal with clients and the service we offer is just more connection. I really think I thrive off of one-on-one communication and connection. And I would really, really enjoy in 2023 to kind of create a container for Team HOFIT in person, whether that's like team retreats or some sort of event that we're meeting all the clients at. I would just love to further connect and create a further impact, while it obviously involving our current offer of health and fitness and just personal development. So that's kind of what's going on with me.
Oh my goodness. You're incredible. Oh my gosh. I'm so honored to just like even be here as a client and someone watching your journey. You're literally already taking off. You've taken off, but you're taking off again. It's incredible to watch. Thank you for sharing all of that. I know that it's hard to speak on things, on your plans, when your like feelings around those plans aren't completely solidified. I totally know that feeling. It's fucking scary. So thank you for pushing past that to share with the listeners what you're going to do. Your vulnerability in like every sense has helped so many people, not just with fitness, but with being vulnerable themselves. And I'm a true believer that vulnerability is courage. So I don't just say that as like thanks for being vulnerable. Like I mean that with all my heart. Like it's courageous. And personally, anytime I like have come on the podcast and share, like I have a little bit of a vulnerability hangover afterwards. I'm like, oh my God, I just put so much out there. Or like, I just sounded so stupid.
It's tough. I get like impact fatigue is what I say. It's like, oh my God, my impact fatigue is like exhausted. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with the listeners and with me. You're absolutely going to go so far. A retreat would be amazing. I would sign up for that in seconds. I've definitely gotten some businesses I work with have had some little things they've invited me to, and it's not been as like, all I'm trying to say is I would sign up for that in a split second, just because so many good things.
Deal. Okay. I'm already thinking like end of April or like end of March, early April is what I'm thinking. And I'm thinking St. Louis. Okay. Just because I have some like local gyms and friends here. So I have like a local like group trainer here named Jeff. He used to work with the Blues hockey team. He is amazing at like mobility and just functional training. So I'm thinking like we could do a session with him. And then I also have this like sauna and ice session. So it's like a breath work and then cold exposure and like heat exposure. And he takes you through like a 30 to 40 minute like breath work session. So I thought that would be super cool. I've got tons of ideas, but it's already underway. So don't you worry.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. Yes. If you want me to like take pictures of it when you get there, if I can send you some.
I already got it covered. I'm going to hire a videographer for sure.
Oh my, fancy. Okay, very cool. I love that.
I know.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so exciting. Yeah, I forget that it's good to just sometimes go and like relax and be part of things. I'm always like, how can I help? What can I do? That's incredible. And
yes.
You've made some
Sophia, I think if I've gathered anything from just getting to know you a little bit more, it's that you need to delegate and be okay with accepting some help.
Yes,
because I was the exact same way. And like, you cannot move forward if you do not ask for help and like accept it.
That's so true. Yes, that's absolutely true. I am in therapy myself, so that's my little way of feeling like I definitely seek help. But even like this, just smaller forms of help, I have a hard time with. So I appreciate that. You're helping me all the time.
Of course.
No, absolutely. And I love that.
And I commend you on therapy. That's amazing. It took me a while to go. So
I appreciate that.
It's tough, but it really, like, just bringing some awareness to your own bullshit. It is the best thing you can do.
It absolutely is. I've actually been with this therapist for 5 years now. But it's like every time we plan to graduate me, I'm always like, you know what, something else has come up and I just really want to make sure I handle this right. And I'm so glad I stayed in it. Like, honestly, we sometimes do, like, right now it's every other week. Sometimes it's like every 3 weeks. And then of course I've taken like a couple months break here and there, just sprinkled in to kind of be on my own and like practice being on my own and not having like, oh, I need to talk about this in therapy next week. Like that, like little crutch almost to fall back on. So yes. And I commend you as well. That's incredible. I feel like everyone needs it. If people went based on need, we would probably be short therapists. So yeah, it's definitely something, my fiance and I, we've been engaged for a while. We're probably going to wait and get engaged next November because he's finishing his paramedic program. And I'm really big on getting like couples therapy before we legally bind ourselves to each other. We're actually going to do that together coming up soon once he graduates paramedic school. And it'll be like a new experience. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes.
I think something that stuck out to me about Alex was just that he went to therapy too. That was something that we connected on.
Wow.
And it just like told me, like, listen, if you are aware of your own ish and you're like on a journey to improve and like, you know, be better and evolve, I'm on that same journey. So like, this is the only way it's going to work. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a different mentality when you're on this like growth journey and you have that growth mindset. There are still some areas where I catch myself and I'm in this like fixed mindset loop, but it's just so important to me for, you know, my partner and myself to be on the same page in that. So I love that y'all are going and you're, you know, valuing that before you tie the knot.
Absolutely. No, thank you. And thank you for sharing that. That's incredible. Yes. There's a lot of the stigma around men showing emotion is still, I feel like lately it's been better. Like, I feel like social media has kind of been supporting the other side a bit more now, but those like deep rooted feelings that they almost like grow up with because they were affected by society. Like, that's such an individual thing. Like, no matter how much the conversation around it changes, there's still so much work like each, I guess, man has to do to like make sure they're not being affected by that mindset that they grew up around. So that's something we talk about a lot for sure. And of course he's an EMT. So their like expression of emotions is often in dark humor. And I've had that's been interesting, but yes. Okay. Well, we're about to time today. I feel so good about the content we've discussed. For people listening, hopefully this has helped you at least kind of set a little bit of a foundation of maybe what you want to do with your personal health. Maybe it's just validated you in a few ways if you're feeling maybe kind of lost in your journey, or maybe you're practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're having trouble balancing your personal lifts because you're so tired from rolling all the time. Hopefully this has helped you in some way. I'm definitely going to link all of Hannah's socials in the show notes, so be sure to visit her there. And of course, we're going to have highlight reels on the Instagram, so be sure to follow there. But before we close out today, Hannah, is there anything you would like to send the listeners off with?
No, this was amazing. I had so much fun just kind of snowballing it. It's been a while since I've, like I said, just gotten into long form copy. So this was great. It was a super good conversation.
Amazing. No, I love that. Thank you so much. I like when that's the reply. It means that you really feel like you've gotten to say what you need to say. So that's amazing. So I'll go ahead and close out here. For exclusive video content with guest speakers, you can become a Patreon. You'll receive a thank you note and podcast stickers along with more exclusive content. If you will, please visit SheShield on Instagram and TikTok for show updates, pictures of our guest speakers, and podcast highlights. A special thank you to Sagetta Gear, the official sponsor of SheShield. For concealed carry gear and duty gear, you can use code SheShield10 for 10% off your Sagetta Gear order and to support the pod. All resources mentioned in this episode will be tagged in the show notes. And if you like the pod, you can help by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. Thank you for listening. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Bye.